There we go. Let's get Facebook in here. We can start the show. Get the wheels spinning. One and Eric, blink twice if you're there. There we go. Well, Facebook's here. There's Eric also. Welcome in. It is 6:40 a.m. Mountain Time. It's unfortunately loser Monday, whatever you want to say. Not a loser season. It was still a great season. And I'm Nick Kendall. This is Eric Trickle. This is Broncos for Breakfast coming at you live on Monday and Friday mornings, at least probably through the draft. The summertime we'll stretch our legs a little bit, give ourselves some flexibility. But for now, we're here and very sad end of the season. It's always going to be the what could have happened season for the Broncos, but you play the hand that you're dealt in football, and I'm not here to argue the counterfactual too much with folks. Denver falls on 10-7 in the AFC Championship game. Eric, good morning to you. How are you feeling the morning after?
I'm feeling it's a little frustrated because even though Jarrett Stidham is, and Broncos fans, us, myself, we still believed that the Broncos could win this game, and they still had plenty of opportunities to, even outside that fumble or that backwards pass, I guess would be the way to put it. They still had opportunities, and they were just missed because the quarterback play wasn't good enough. I said before the game that I agreed with Sean Payton that, top 32 quarterbacks, Jarrett Stidham was one of them. I still think that with some of the starting quarterback play that we saw around the NFL, but he is still a backup quarterback in Denver for a reason. There are still plenty of issues, and some of the issues definitely popped up with the fact that he hadn't thrown a pass all season. He had one snap, and it was a kneel down, and just not getting in there in that field, not having the chemistry down with some of the players. That definitely hurt the Broncos there. But there were some plays, some pretty easy plays that he missed, that left on the field, and it just came back to bite them in the butt. And I mean, that wasn't the only issue, but there was a lot of issues with the offense. Well, the defense played really well. Like they played a great game with all things considered, and just couldn't make that stop when needed to. But you can't put this game on the defense.
No, I mean, in order to win, they had to make a play. And this one, just how it was working. So, like, you can somewhat put it on the defense, like, not as far as, like, they didn't play winning football, but with the circumstances, the way they were built, somebody had to make a play. And they just didn't. And it's hard to do that, obviously, to rip the ball away. There was a couple, like, there was one where PJ Locke maybe almost ripped the ball out of the running back's hands. It was close. Hufanga, first drive, second drive. I mean, those are the ones that, you get the ball right there. Maybe that's a touchdown. And so, yeah, it's unfortunate. We'll have plenty to talk about, but I do want to say hello to people in the chat as we get rocking and rolling here. First off, super chat, Denver Luke, $4.99 coming in here, says, really bummed how the season ended with Bo, but on to the offseason mock draft Monday. We'll see if we have enough time today. Honestly, like, should we hold off all mock drafts until we see if the Vance Joseph gets hired away? I've heard conflicting things there, Eric. So we'll see. Hopefully the next, what do you think, 48 hours, we'll have an idea there on Vance Joseph, maybe Webb as well. I saw that the news this morning was Phillip Rivers is pulling out from the Buffalo Bills, but Webb is having an interview there. I'm expecting Dayball with Webb as the OC, probably. I think you've talked about it in the chat as well. But a lot of times teams will bring in head coach interviews when they're really interviewing for a position underneath. But we'll see. Good to see you, Denver Luke. Appreciate you. Yeah, it is a bummer. But I think we all already had the wind taken out of our sails with that Bo Nix injury as well. And we built ourselves up, but I think it was always kind of like a little bit of a what other choices do you have, right? Like, this is, again, the hand that we're dealt. You either cry or go out there and support Stidham and hope for, not a miracle is too hard of a word because they had a chance, but like something a little bit against the odds. So it didn't happen. It's going to be a what-if season. Michael Ronquillo coming in here. Good morning, Nick and Eric on Broncos for Breakfast. Go, Bo Broncos. Good to see you, Michael. Yeah, everybody, if you're coming in today, I know it's sad that the Broncos lost. Season's over, but it was a hell of a season, and we'll have plenty of time to reflect on it as well. But click the thumbs up, like, subscribe, share, and we'll keep rocking and rolling. And then he also comes in and says, I just cannot blame the defense. I mean, I said it on the show. I've said it on this show, Eric, I believe, many times, but I mean, everybody knows it's a cop out, but turnovers are the key at the end of the day. Denver is -2 in the turnover differential. That's the game. I mean, right there. I know that people will point to the fourth down. In hindsight, kick the field goal. I really don't mind the aggressiveness, honestly. Like, I think if he makes that and you get a touchdown, he's a hero and Denver wins the game, right? And some people might disagree with that one. I think you could have gone either way on that one. I don't think it was an obvious decision, but the turnover that gave the Patriots a layup touchdown, I mean, the one backbreaking mistake, who can avoid it? The Patriots did. The Broncos did not.
Yeah, I mean, that fourth down, that's one of those things where you can look back and it's like, in hindsight, yeah, they should have taken the field goal. I think in the moment in that game with the backup quarterback, I still think that's a situation where you take the points. At the very least, you line up, see if you can't get draw them off sides, and then go from there.
Yeah.
I think that the play call was a absolute terrible one. Sean Payton has a tendency for a similar plays to that, especially with the blocking up front in short yardage situations. And the Patriots did their homework. They saw that and they attacked the blocking concepts, got that pressure immediately. Not a fan of the play call on that situation whatsoever. And neither was Sean Payton. That's one that he was very critical of himself after the game about, was what he decided to go with on that one. He's like, I originally had a timeout, or I originally had a run play, and then we used the timeout and changed it up. And a run play might have been a little bit better, but who knows? Obviously, they didn't run that. But again, I mean, turnovers, they are so critical. And as you mentioned, the Broncos, they didn't get them. They had an opportunity to literally fall through their hands for one early in the game, and then almost got another one. I think there was another one where Cooper almost got knocked the ball out too. But they had the opportunities and they didn't. And that one play that gave them the touchdown, that ended up being the difference maker, because after that, it basically, you could see the change in the way that the Patriots were playing offense. They were basically at that point just playing to keep themselves in it. And then once they kicked that field goal, they were just playing, we're not playing to lose. And Denver had to go out there and make plays with a backup quarterback. And as I said, comes back to that field goal. Had they taken that field goal, they probably are playing not to lose, especially with the weather in the second half. Instead of having to go out there and make plays, who knows? But I've seen a lot of people say that the better team lost. Well, maybe they did, but better teams don't lose.
Yeah,
like it just comes to that. Patriots were the better team. They ended up walking away with the win. They were better all around.
Yeah. I mean, it's the catastrophic fumble from Jarrett Stidham that you got to turf that ball immediately or take the sack, and because you play in field position at that point, and it is unfortunate because the defense played unbelievably. I mean, other than Drake May rushing, which I give them a little bit of slack for that, Eric, with the way the field conditions turned. It was a little bit of an ice rink and playing like man coverage, the quarterback that big and decent athlete. I mean, that was like one of the only ways they were going to move the ball. And it's a hard ask to cover that. But yeah, it is unfortunate. And I do think, again, like I said, no wallowing. It just is what it is. I do think Denver wins this game with Bo Nix, just with his athleticism, like to have him running as well and keeping them on track. Because that was, I mean, coming out of the game, I mean, obviously there's things we can point to, Jarrett Stidham, but like the Broncos run game, and it's been a sticking point all season, but they were pretty good the first, 2 drives, Eric? Like they had 50 yards. They end the day with 79 rushing yards on 24 attempts, 3.3 yards per carry, and RJ Harvey, 2.8 yards per carry on 13 attempts. I mean, that's a losing formula when you have a backup quarterback. Yeah, and I know like a lot of people in here are going to scream about the lack of the passing weapons in this team, and obviously, like team building wise, big picture, like number one thing I would want would be a number one weapon. But I think equally an issue for this team is they just had no. They are probably at the 17th, 18th ranked rush offense when you're looking at the running backs specifically, and that was not good enough for this team.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir with me on that one. I've been hammering about the running back situation for a while.
Yep.
It's definitely a position they got to add in. And don't get me wrong, J.K. Dobbins, he was great when he was healthy, but he got hurt again, and you cannot go into next year. I do think he should be re-signed. but you can't go into next year hoping that he's going to play a full season again. You still have to bring in somebody else to be that true number one guy, and you got to figure out what it is with RJ Harvey, man. Like, it's always become something different with him. Earlier on in the season, the vision was there. He was just overly patient. Now he's getting to the hole in the timely manner, but he's just not seeing things anymore. So it's like one or the other, but when you need both to be an efficient running back, and it's just become such an issue with him with the success rate. And I know a lot of people hype up the touchdowns, which are great. Don't get me wrong, but his work has come as a receiver and right up at the goal line. And then on top of that is you got to get better from your offensive line. This was a really bad game. Quinn Miners was absolutely dominated all game long. Mike McGlinchey couldn't do much. Ben Powers had his issues. Luke Wattenberg, everyone had their issues. Mm-hmm. You got to do better. But when looking back and watching over this game, the issues with the run game, tight ends, like again, Adam Troutman consistently whiffing on blocks. Adam Prentice whiffed on another one where RJ Harvey got hit in the backfield early on. You can't have that happening when you're trying to get the run game going, where you're consistently all season long. You can look at the tight ends and the fullback and the blocking from those two position groups and have it be such an issue. Offensive line, obviously, they've had their bad moments, but it hasn't been a consistent issue with them with the run game as it has been with the tight ends and the fullback.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a bummer to see Milton Williams leaving the game. Did you hear his quote, his little soundbite?
Yeah.
He said number one offensive line, my you-know-what. They were beat. I would say that the Broncos defensive line beat the Patriots defensive line, or beat the Patriots offensive line worse than the Broncos did, but made it a pretty good job mitigating like catastrophic sacks. Like he had 5 sacks and Broncos had 3 against him, and the Broncos had 10 more sack yardage than obviously that matters a lot. Yeah. So yeah, shoulda, coulda, woulda on a lot of things. I mean, Sean Payton in the post-game press conference says that he's going to be critical of himself and his play calling, which I'm still Sean Payton pilled. I believe him when he says that. I mean, this was a successful season by all means, getting this far. Who knows how far Denver gets again. There's no guarantees, but he also mentioned that dropped passes was a massive issue as well. And maybe the Broncos were dropping passes, Eric, because they had ordered something greasy from our friends over at Goldbelly.
Yeah, have y'all heard of Goldbelly? It's this amazing site where you can get the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants all across the U.S., and it's perfect for game day, Valentine's Day, or anything else you have going on. Guys, this is seriously amazing. Goldbelly will ship you iconic Chicago deep dish pizza from Lou Malnati's, the original buffalo wings from Anchor Bar in Buffalo, Guy Fieri's unbelievable trash can tacos, real Philly cheesesteaks, or even the legendary Franklin's barbecue straight from Texas to your door. And with Valentine's Day coming up, they also have great gifts like award-winning dinners from Peter Luger Steakhouse, world-famous macaroons from La Durée, and even the exact cake that was served at JFK's wedding to Jackie O.
I'll tell you, Eric, I got my eye on the Illuminati's pizza. So freaking good, deep dish Chicago style. It's almost more of a lasagna than a pizza, but man, I cannot wait to get that to my door. And I know it's going to be fresh because they always give high quality food, which is not always the case from online food ordering sites. Goldbelly always delivers, and it always tastes absolutely amazing. So whether you're looking to turn game day into an unforgettable experience with friends or want to impress a loved one on Valentine's Day, coming up real soon, guys, go to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code MileHigh. That's goldbelly.com, promo code MileHigh for 20% off your first order. Let's keep it rocking and rolling in here with the chat. Got a lot of folks coming in here. Hope people are doing well. We got Boogmeister saying, what happened? We lost 3 points. We were definitely the better team. We should have ran screens. We ran 1 or 2, and Sean Stidham slipped up. I believe in Bo. Stidham didn't look good in those screens. I guess I thought the screens were DOA almost as soon as the ball hit Stidham's hand. It was elongated motion, awkward, and inaccurate. And the wide receivers were having to adjust to the ball and not even become like runners with momentum with the football. So I come down to, obviously the drops were frustrating here or there, but the offensive line didn't do good enough and the run game didn't do good enough. And if you're putting it on Stidham in that situation, in those conditions, I think you've already lost. So those are my frustrating takeaways. Like, would it be great to have a wide receiver 1? Yeah, for sure, that we could have gone to and build the plane out of, if you will. But for me, I just come away more frustrated with the offensive line and the impotency of the run game just in general. They could not get it done.
Yeah, I mean it was a problem, and it's been a problem all season long with the run game. We knew that it was going to be a problem going into this one, and then you look at the offensive line, and there's consistent issues. Well, you got to look a little bit at what they have on the defensive line. That is a really good defensive line, and you touched on it Friday morning. The four best defensive lines in terms of pressures were the four teams left, and Barrymore and Milton Williams, they're quite capable, and they actually have good depth on there, and they just won the day. And it's going to be rough when on the first few plays on offense, you see one of your top two offensive linemen get beat pretty badly. Garrett Bowles lost badly around the edge on one of the first few plays, and then Quinn Miners got beat by Christian Barrymore pretty early on. That's kind of a bad omen there when that happens. But speaking specifically to the screens, not only were they dead on arrival because of Jarrett Stidham and his elongated throwing motion, they're dead on arrival because that is something that this Patriots defense defends well against. They fly to the outside. They do well with avoiding those blockers. And when you don't have great blockers out there, because Pat Bryant at this point, when they really started using screens a little bit more, was already ruled out for the game. Like, it becomes problematic, and you don't have the tight ends out there because Evan Ingram is your slot tight end, and he can't block whatsoever. It's not going to be a good day when you have all this going against you, and it's one of the issues with Sean Payton. There were times this season where the screen game was necessary because it was attacking weakness. Screen games against the Patriots, that's attacking a strength of theirs, and you still were calling it a decent amount, and in very questionable situations. Even when the weather got bad, like, you're throwing a screen on 3rd and 8, like, come on now, like, at least give your offense a chance, a little bit more of a chance anyways. That play right there, that screen to Mims on 3rd and 7 or whatever it was, 3rd and 8, that was like a white flag, I think, from Sean Payton in my eyes. Like, a lot of issues with this team in this game with this offense specifically. But I mean, when your play caller is who's normally aggressive starts calling plays scared, even with the weather, it's not good.
Yeah. I just come away so disappointed in the offensive line in this one. Just, you had to be able to dictate a bit more up front, and Denver, the offensive line lost. And there's very few games this year they outright lost. This was definitely one of them. Pearl Heater comes in and says, "Hey guys, just woke up. Good to see you." Justin says, "I bet Sean kicks a field goal next time." I mean, Denver had 40 yards their last 8 drives, 56 yards their last 8 drives. If it's 10-10, they end up losing still, I think, because they can't move the freaking ball. So I don't know. I don't have as much of an issue with going for it. Personally, you can disagree. Obviously, that's one that you could be divided. I didn't like the play call. Maybe you try to draw them off sides as well, like Eric said. I mean, a false start or a delay of game, yadi ha, like, who cares, right? From that point, I guess maybe not. That was before the weather started getting bad too, and also we didn't know the weather would turn like that. But yeah, good to see you.
It was known before the game that they were expecting snow like that in the second half.
I did not know, and I live here, but
yeah, it was being reported on heavily prior to the game.
Okay, well, it was crazy. It really did turn quick. Gabe says, "Sean lost the game in the 4th down. I was screaming, take the points. Fumble never happens if you take the points. We had momentum. Everything was going our way." Football is such a long game that who knows? Maybe, Gabe. My issue is not so much that, it's you don't put the ball in harm's way and you take the ball away. So I don't know. Denver goes up 10-0 there. Maybe the game changes. It was 2 drives later when the fumble happened. It wasn't directly off of, like, the Patriots didn't directly score off of getting the ball in the 4th down there. So who knows? Maybe that doesn't happen, but maybe the Patriots throw a bomb for a touchdown. I don't know, Gabe. I don't fully disagree or agree so much. I don't have too much of an issue with the going for it and being aggressive there, because that's been their identity all season as well. Trezzy comes in and says, "Good morning, Broncos country. Even though I'm sad from yesterday, I'm glad to see our mock draft picks might help us get over the hump to make the AFC Championship game for next season." Yeah, we'll see about those mock draft picks. Not the best draft this year. Denver will officially be picking 30. We are waiting to see if Vance Joseph will be hired as a head coach, because that'll give Denver a conditional 3rd round pick. But I'm imagining an aggressive offseason from the Broncos. So, yeah, shoulda, coulda, woulda. We'll see what it takes to get back next season. And hot take here, Eric, I don't know if the chat will appreciate this, but Broncos could not even win the division next year and be a better team than they were this season. I know, some people might be, oh, how could you say that? But I think this team this year, the way they won a lot of close games, I think they had a lot of in-season make your own luck kind of situation occur. But I think they could definitely be a more talented team next season and lose a few of those one-score games, maybe even lose the division because the division's tough, obviously, and be a better football team. Now, that doesn't mean they'll go farther because it's really freaking hard to win road games in the playoffs, especially if you don't win the division and have 0 of them. But I don't know. Just my thoughts right now. And they got a real chance to improve a good bit next season, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's not hard for them to be a better team, even if they don't necessarily, match the record or go further in the playoffs. And the prime example of that is they can find a running game, and that could help them be a better team.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's that simple. They all season long they struggle with the running game, and then it just got significantly worse after J.K. Dobbins went down, and they just couldn't find an answer for it. And if they can find that and find that consistency with the running game, then obviously it's not hard to be a little bit of a better team. Finding more consistency in the passing game throughout the season. We really found it after that mini bye week after that first Raiders game, but carrying that throughout the season, defensive takeaways, cutting down on penalties. Like there's a lot of areas where this team really struggled with and still overcame to get as far as they did. So plenty of ways that they can still be a better team. And that's what they got to look at. They got to look internally and find those things and figure out what they can do to stop it. And, maybe a change with the defense can help cut down on the penalties a little bit. Maybe, different running game, maybe, plenty of things, maybe more growth, another weapon on offense, another receiving weapon, and again, a running back also, because that is a weapon on offense in the passing game. All those can help this team get better from where they were and put them in a really good position.
Yeah. Bob comes in and says, good season. It was, I will go great season. It stinks it goes out like this, but with Bo Nix going down and against in the weird weather situation and losing the turnover battle by 2, not being able to run the ball. I mean, tip your cap. Mike Vrabel, their defense was playing really good football, and their quarterback didn't make the costly mistakes that the Broncos did. And again, Jarrett Stidham, backup quarterback, first time taking meaningful snaps since 2023. Like, I don't hold it against him. It just, just is what it is. Unfortunately, DB comes in and says running back, tight end, running back are a must. I don't know if we need 2 running backs, but we'll see. I know he probably meant wide receiver in there, perhaps, or maybe linebacker. That's another spot the Broncos need. Bob says nobody said anything about the bad weather. See, I'm normally a weather guy, Eric, but I just was, too locked in on other things. So maybe you're right. William comes in and says too many drop balls. Just catch the ball. Yeah. When you're down wide receiver 2, 3, relying on little Jordan Humphrey for a team that already had limitations at wide receiver, it is frustrating, but it's also not like completely unexpected. There's no such thing as like a perfect roster. And obviously in this one, the quarterback issue, you needed to be even more talented around him, and it just didn't happen in this one. But drops were frustrating, no doubt. And that's something they're going to focus on this offseason, if to go by Peyton's comments at all. Be curious to hear if they have any more team building thoughts. But yeah, the drops were an issue, and Big C comes in and says the offensive line was terrible yesterday. They were. They were not good enough yesterday. As Milton Williams said, number 1 O-line, my back end. Top 10, sure. Much better in pass protection than run blocking, though. I felt like this season they could never really dictate terms on the offensive line. Even though they're big, they were not necessarily displacing players, I felt, too often.
Yeah, and I found one of the people who was reporting on it. It was not Mike Kliss from 9 News, but it was the other guy. I can't remember his name. And they also talked about it a lot pregame. They knew the weather was coming in. They knew it was going to get bad. And I believe Mike Vrabel also said something about it after the game as well. But I digress. The offensive line, it was an issue, and it was an issue all season long. But it wasn't, when you look at the issues with the running game, wasn't consistently the run game like it was with the tight ends and the fullbacks. The offensive line yes, they had their issues. They weren't getting a lot of displacement. They were struggling to get to that second level blocks, which is why we started seeing more jumbo packages and using those tight ends. But when you go back and you look at how often these running backs were hit by the line of scrimmage, which was often, you look at who's at fault for that. 9 times out of 10, it was the tight end or Adam Prentice whiffing on a block and just being such an issue there, or a defender coming unblocked because it was a bad pre-snap read for the blocking to get set up. Whatever the case it is for it, with it, it's definitely something that they got to improve on. I know that there's a lot of issues from players on the offensive line over some of the run calls that were being made, that they didn't like it. They weren't comfortable running it. And it was reported on before the season even started that Sean Payton added to the running concepts to it. A lot of those wide zone stuff that they weren't really accustomed to. And they kind of went away from the running concepts that they did so well last year, even though there were a lot of issues with the running back position. I think there was just a lot going wrong for this running game. And I don't think the issue is consistently the offensive line to, put that blame on them as much as other areas.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really unfortunate. But it was still a really good season. And Denver could have lost last week, right? That was a coin flip. There's sometimes ball didn't bounce their way in this one, getting home and knocking the ball loose on Drake May. That's something that they hit him enough, one of those ones squirt loose. That's football. Single elimination game, chaos sport, so many variables. Happens. James Todd comes in, $5 super chat. So the Patriots just said F it and sent pressure all game because Stidham showed he couldn't handle it. If Bo plays, we win that game, no doubt. I do think Denver wins that one. We'll never know, right? Again, I'm trained in epidemiology and logical fallacies, and that's the counterfactual, right? It wasn't the reality, so we won't know for sure, but it's definitely feel like you got a better chance, and just for simply the fact that his legs, I mean, in this kind of situation, having the running ability when the field gets like that, you feel a lot better, and avoiding some of those sacks, but we'll see. Bronco for life wants all offense in the draft. Well, if you're drafting all offense, you're probably talking about key players in 2028 more so than helping 2026. But we'll see. Denver's probably going to be. I'm hoping that they fix a lot of the offense, floor raising wise, in free agency, so we don't even have to worry about we have to draft this position in the draft. And I agree with you, Eric. We kind of talked about it, like running back between the tackles, J.K. Dobbins. As far as I'm concerned, you can let J.K. Dobbins walk unless it's like a 1-year, $3 million contract, because you talk about protecting him. It's not like they even ran him into the ground this year. He was getting 10 carries a game anyways, and he still got hurt. So great player if he wants to come back and compete for running back one, but I would pool the resources and go get Hall, Algier, Walker, maybe trade a 5th-round pick for David Montgomery, something like that where – a little bit more durability, even though love JK, but if it was a deeper running back class too, maybe we'd have a conversation because he gives you insurance to some extent, but I think you're going to blow your load on free agency at running back, I believe. So we'll see. Bronco for life. We got B747Z says go Hawks. Yeah, definitely cheering for the Seahawks in the Super Bowl. Sam Darnold, that'd be great to see him. Go out there and do some stuff. Football is logical fallacy at times. Yes, it is. Chaos sport. You're trying to make sense of a small sample size game with a lot of variables in play. And we also got Lawrence Rivera coming in and says, should have been 14-10. My prediction was so close. Did I jinx it? You didn't jinx it. It's okay. It wasn't going to happen. Good season still. It's all good. In Colorado, Dotut comes in and says, I feel bad for the Broncos. I'm in Colorado right now. Well, hopefully you are somewhere safe where the snow isn't causing an issue. I got to go out and scrape the car this morning, unfortunately. Go ahead, Eric. Are you there?
Oh, yeah.
I had to cough.
But yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people talking about it. Bo with that, and I do agree. Obviously, we'll never know for sure because maybe the Patriots play things differently, but you have to think that with the explosiveness that he brings as a runner, with the being able to move the ball in his hands, and I don't think that he's making that same mistake that Stidham made that on that backwards pass, that was a fumble. Like,
Yeah.
so it's impossible to say that Denver wins this game with him because we just won't know. But there's a reason. But you can feel confident, I guess, that he would. And then as for running back, I think Denver is going to be very aggressive, adding to the room. I would look at for like a 1 year, $3 million deal. That's about 50% of it being incentives for J.K. Dobbins to come back as running back 3. And I said this before, and I had got some heat for it because why would he agree to that? Because he suffered yet another season-ending injury. This is what, 4 and 5 seasons of his career, or something like that. 3 and 5. He's just constantly getting hurt, and it stinks, but it is the way it is. And running backs don't have a long shelf life as it is. He's going to be 28 here soon. Like, there's a lot going against him. So maybe running back 3 is that way that he can, still provide value to a team. And he still can. He still is a quality blocker. You can still use him a little bit on third down situations. So that would be where I look. And also tight end. I think Denver's going to be very aggressive adding a wide tight end, especially if a couple of them, their contract's void. I've said this multiple times. And if you pull up overthecap.com and you look at tight ends that are expected to be free agents and look up for the ones where it says void, it's pretty obvious what I'm talking about. And then wide receiver, as things stand now, I would be surprised if the Broncos are actually picking 30th overall. I would be surprised if they even have a first-round pick this year, because it really seems like they're going to be using that pick to go get another receiving weapon, another wide receiver.
Yeah, for me, the thing about the wide receiver is, I don't know how much I'm allowed to curse on here, but it's bleep or get off the pot at wide receiver. Like, what good does another wide receiver 3 do for this team? Nothing for me. You're just adding to the noise. Somebody that kind of messes with the rotations. You need somebody that hopefully you can build the plane around. And even if they're not like building the plane around them per se, like they don't have to be a top 10 wide receiver because those guys don't come available every year. It's kind of like I view it like people, like I had people texting or messaging last night, like, oh man, look at JSN, look at Puka Nacua. It'd be nice to have that. Teams that are out of the playoffs right now are pointing to the Broncos defense yesterday with Patrick Surtain making plays down the field. Like, oh man, we just need Patrick Surtain. It's like, okay, good freaking luck, right? Like, what are the pathways to actually get that kind of guy every season? Probably, honestly, a little easier to get a wide receiver that's in the top 15 than finding a cornerback like that, just given the ages and how their careers play out. But I digress. It's going to be a hard pathway to find that guy. That doesn't mean they won't get it, but for me, and this might be controversial, Eric, I really do want them to add a wide receiver they can build a plane out of a little bit more. But what their formula right now, even though they lost yesterday and it hurts, they lost, and there's obviously, it's a game of football, right? Like they're going to have the other teams paid to play too. The philosophy of this team and the building of it, I think, is overall a success, right? Like you got to the AFC Championship game, you very likely win if Bo Nix is the quarterback, I think, in that one. You went, 14-3? I don't think we need to drastically change things. Now, obviously, there's tweaks here and there, but let's say they go into the offseason and they just improve, let's say maintain status quo at linebacker because they're losing 2 of their top 3. So they have to bring in somebody there, in my opinion. Yeah. You add a running back 1, which there's going to be some in free agency, at least between the tackles usage. And you add a 2-way wide tight end. And after that, you just continue the philosophy you've had team building. I don't think that's a bad pathway forward. I know a lot of people would scream about that because we're so laser focused on a wide receiver. And I want a wide receiver 1 too. Like, don't get me wrong. You look big picture, offensive weapon. Like, that's the biggest need that you have. But what they've done has been a success so far. So, I don't think it's such an issue to the extent that you have to stray from the vision, the plan, the building blocks that you've used over the last 3 seasons to get to this point. Am I off base here? I feel like maybe it's a little bit of an overreact for a team that lost a game that they had their backup quarterback who hasn't taken a meaningful snap in 2 years. Like this, you don't need to switch up everything drastically for the team build philosophy.
I don't think you're wrong, but I think you're not taking into consideration the fact that Denver has really made pushes to get another wide receiver in here.
Yes, they have.
They've just fallen short.
Yeah.
So I don't think going after another wide receiver is changing their philosophy whatsoever.
No.
I just think that they've realized that they really do need it. And Jalen Waddle is that guy that I think they'll be making those calls about once again, as they did before the trade deadline. They were in on Stephon Diggs. They were in on multiple other receivers prior to Cooper Kupp. Like, they were very aggressive last offseason trying to get another receiver in. They just missed by sometimes they missed by an inch, sometimes they missed by a mile. But
Egbuka.
Egbuka, like
Allegedly.
they
Allegedly.
not so allegedly. They wanted Egbuka. They were wanting them there at 20. Peter Schrager is absolutely correct in his reporting on that one. So they were aggressive in it. They just fell short. So I don't think that's going to change anything. I know that they want a running back. They want that tight end. I think they're going to be very aggressive with offense. Again, with trying to get guys, because they have been aggressive before, even last year in the draft. They weren't super aggressive going after tight ends, but there was a lot of tight ends they were targeting. Most of them went earlier than they were expecting. So I don't think that they're changing their philosophy around. I just think they might be a little bit more aggressive in getting their and executing their philosophy, I guess would be the best way to put it, of going and getting that other receiver, going and getting that tight end, going and getting that running back. I think they can be a little bit more aggressive, getting it done instead of changing it up.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've been banging that drum too. I just don't think it's so. It could get to the point similar to last year where like the obvious pathway doesn't open up, and I don't think that would be necessarily a total failure.
No,
because I think the formula of trench oriented is still the backbone of this team. Now, would I like them to be a little bit better, run blocking up front? They were before this game. They were pretty top 10 in rushing yards before contact, or I believe that was it. And they were like bottom 5 in rushing yards after contact. So that's a red flag on the running back position. Not as much the offensive line, but some of the auxiliary pieces in the run game. I mean, even Atkins had a bad game in this one, Eric, in my opinion, and he'd been, you're probably your best run blocking tight end out there. So I don't know, a lot of different options forward. Like I said, if you're thinking big picture, a number one wide receiver, it doesn't have to be a wide receiver. Number one go-to weapon would be amazing, but you still have to keep the trenches strong at the end of the day and draft good players. So,
and it's a good thing for them. They have all 5 of their offensive linemen under contract.
Yes,
for the next season. So it's there. And then on the defense side of the ball, I know we scream about John Franklin Myers, especially me. I've made plenty of screaming about it. But from what I gathered is they really do believe in Savion Jones and Uwazurike, and I do think they'll add another veteran to that room. So this is actually a good year for them to make those aggressives. And it's so focused on wide receiver 1, but I don't think they necessarily need a wide receiver 1. They can do with a wide receiver 2, because I think the room is filled with 3s and 4s that they need somebody else to be that legitimate, just help take attention away from Cortland Sutton, because we're not getting that. And so it doesn't have to be wide receiver 1, because quite frankly, how often do those guys become available? They don't. Like, it's a situation where if, supposedly Justin Jefferson is a little bit frustrated with the quarterback situation in Minnesota, there's a situation you call on, but they're probably not going to trade him, right? It's the same thing with the Bengals last year before they extended Jamar Chase. You make the call just to see if it's possible, but it's probably not nothing's going to happen with it. That's just the way it is with true number 1 receivers. Those guys you can build the plan around, but it doesn't mean that you still can't go add another weapon. A Jalen Waddle could be a nice piece to help take that attention away from him. Alec Pierce, who's a free agent, if the Colts don't extend him, which it sounds like they're not going to, he could be that piece to add to it as a actual number 2 receiver. And then you can use Troy Franklin and Pat Bryant, and maybe Pat Bryant can still grow and be that number 2 receiver. Well, when that happens, maybe you can get more out of Troy Franklin, maybe you can get out of that. You still have Cortland Sutton, who, with the way his contract extension is up, well, maybe if he keeps split the way he is, because frankly, he didn't look like a number 1 receiver at all this season, outside of maybe a moment or two. And, the drops have become such an issue with the reliability has been an issue with him as of late. Well, the way his contract is set up, after next season, you could potentially make that change there. So if Pat Bryant and Troy Franklin take that steps up to being, number 1, number 2 quality, and you have another guy there, then maybe you're saving some money by moving on from Cortland Sutton. Like, it's just options there, and you can still add somebody while still trying to develop the other guys. and doesn't have to be that guy that you build a plan around. And that goes back to what you were saying about the philosophy of this team. Sean Payton's philosophy really has been is just trying to add quality weapons all around. And if he finds a legit, guy he can be able to turn around, that's great. But he still has shown that he can still have good weapons without that guy.
Yeah, they definitely need to add weaponry, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. Why they're going to try? Like, no, duh, they know. Like, follow. I know there's some Broncos media that will bang the drum that they're happy with their wide receivers or love a wide receiver that isn't here anymore, or blah blah blah. But I mean, you follow their actions, not their words, and they've been looking to add weapons. But I mean, even upgrading the Y tight end from a D to a B minus, and your running back position from a running back position from a runner's perspective without Dobbins from a D to a B. I mean, that changes the dynamics of your game drastically in what you can do and what you can be. So wide receiver targets, I'm sure I'll have plenty of time to talk about this, Eric. I'm just kind of going over guys that like I would call on because I don't think they've recently signed big contracts, and maybe there's some upheaval. You probably, phone hangs up quickly on some of these ones, but you mentioned Justin Jefferson. Of course, he's one who stands out. I'm calling on Justin Jefferson. I'm calling on Drake May. Drake May. I can't even get out of my head. Drake London. He's coming up to his last year of his contract, and that's a new regime out there in Atlanta as well. They have to decide what they're doing with Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson. Also, I'm calling about Bijan even too. I know don't trade for running back one. Windows now. I mean, if you have a chance to bring him in, that really changes the complexion of your offense. Would they trade him? Probably not. AJ Brown is interesting. I know he's had some issues, but obviously really talented. Really loved listening to Surtain talk about covering AJ Brown too. I think he's got a lot of respect for him. Jalen Waddle is out there. Has Zay Flowers signed a new contract yet?
Not yet, I don't think.
I would be at an explosive Z like Zay Flowers. I mean, there's some weapons who are out there that obviously are interesting for the Broncos, but it does fall off a good bit too. I mean, when you start to look at some of these guys. So those are some of the names that maybe I'm missing somebody too, Eric, if you want to toss out. But yeah, I kind of look at it like teams like, oh man, we need a Patrick Surtain. Let's call them. No, you're not taking. Thank you, but no thank you. Maybe George Pickens too, with how good he was. I can't imagine Dallas lets him out the door, but he's a free agent and unbelievably talented as well.
On that note, though, maybe I missed you, Sam. CeeDee Lamb. There's been a lot of reports that
Lamb,
Dallas was going to be making a choice between George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, and there's been a lot of talk that they're going to make CeeDee Lamb available in trade.
That would be an interesting one. Bypassed him in that 2020 draft. 19 was Drew Lock. 2020 draft was Jerry Jeudy. He goes pick 18, 16, 17, 18. But yeah, I mean, that's another one. Useful piece. So yeah, Denver's going to be calling on the veterans there. It's not veteran or bust for that, but I think they're going to be aggressive. But we got Miguel coming in, says, hypothetical, since Denver's picking late, would you trade for someone like Waddle, cost more than your number one pick? Well, apparently based on the talks from the trade deadline and how much he was costing, I think it would cost more than 30 overall for the Broncos. Now, could we get it done with 30 overall and the comp pick from VJ that's probably coming? I don't know, Eric. Is that close to enough? A 1 and a 3? I kind of start to get a little bit queasy thinking about giving up a 1 and a 2 necessarily. Definitely not 2 first-round picks. I'm sorry, like GTFO in that scenario for me. But a 1 and a 3, would that get it done?
I think that would be pretty close to it. I know that there was a team that offered a 1 and a 3 prior to the trade deadline, and if it wasn't for a certain situation, the Dolphins would have taken it. That situation being it was the Buffalo Bills who made that offer, and they didn't want to trade him in division. So who knows? Maybe it is enough. Maybe the new coach has a higher value on Jalen Waddle and for the offense that they're wanting to run in there. So maybe things change with that. But I would expect Denver to at least make that call again, because Denver was making a hard push for it. Fell a little bit short of the Bills' offer, and obviously didn't get it done. But even then, the Miami Dolphins still almost took Denver's offer that they had because it wasn't a divisional rival. They just decided to keep him instead.
Yeah, I think that's a That's a good call. Overall, we got Kirk say good morning. Bad calls. One of the main reasons we lost not taking points that was given to us, taking easier field goal and making the offensive plays more simple. I thought the offensive plays were pretty simple. It's just they didn't execute. I mean, when you're getting beat up front and you can't run the frickin' football to save your life, and you don't have a great drop back pass game, you're going to have a hard time. So I don't know. I don't know what I wouldn't have called the screens after like the first one. I've been like, okay, this is ugly as heck. Maybe a little bit more over the middle plays, or maybe actually some more shot plays down the field. Although the refs were not calling penalties that much, but I mean, drawn up elongated shot plays just to get a chance for some verticality in the offense. But I don't know, that was a really good secondary. That might be the best secondary in football the Broncos went against in this game. So it is it's unfortunate. There's going to be a lot of shoulda, coulda, wouldas, but you made the one backbreaking mistake, and the Patriots got a layup touchdown off of it, and that's all she wrote in that one. So shoulda, coulda, woulda. It hurts, but I don't know. It's definitely frustrating.
Yeah, and I think my issue with the play calling is more so the fact after the first 3, maybe 4 drives, it was simple calls, but it was simple calls into strengths of the Patriots defense and not so much trying to attack the weaknesses, especially with the running plays that they were calling. The Patriots are a very over aggressive defense that like to over pursue. So misdirection runs and slashing type runs. This was a big game for Jaleel McLaughlin. Should have been anyways, and they weren't using him as a slasher back. They're trying to get that out of Harvey, who has struggled with that all season. So, not just trying to attack, where the defense is weak at or defensive issues that they have, but the way they're using players. I think there's a lot with the play calling here, but the simplicity of what was being called isn't it. And with the fourth down call, I think in this situation with the backup quarterback and knowing the weather was going to get bad, you take the points. But I can't blame them for being aggressive. I hate the play call that they did for being aggressive. It's what Sean Payton's done all season long. He's gotten aggressive. I think that even despite that, there were opportunities later on, and still in the first half, not talking about the second half because the weather just completely changed everything in the second half. There were still plays that could have been had in that second half, not counting that fumble either, that Stidham missed, and it ended up changing the way that the Broncos had to go. One of them would have been an easy first down, and he just holds on to the ball, takes pressure. It was one of the times the offensive line actually held up, and he ends up taking pressure because he just holds the ball a little bit long instead of getting the ball out of there, and it becomes fourth down, and Denver ended up having to punt. And just those missed opportunities in a game like this, it all stacks up. It all adds together, especially with those 2 takeaways. So that fourth down decision and failing there, it all stacks up, and it's what leads to them losing.
Yeah. I don't know. I still feel it comes down to just an absolutely boneheaded turnover.
It does. I mean, when it's that immediately translates to 7 points for them and you lose by 3. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a small sample size, single elimination game, and Denver made the backbreaking mistake. Very unfortunate. I got to ask you, when I watched that, it looked like the Patriots player deflected it backwards, and I don't know if was it actually a backwards pass? I thought it was close, and like the deflection changed the course, made it backwards, but it should be the trajectory from leaving the hand.
From what they said, if I remember correctly, is they covered that, and it's from where the ball leaves the hand to where it lands, and that the defensive contact doesn't matter, but that doesn't make sense to me because I've seen calls before where they've batted it backwards and it's not been. So I don't know. I felt the same way as you did. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, that was one I was like, huh. I mean, frustrating, but what can you do on that? But anyway, we're going to start wrapping up here. Mr. From comes in and says, what does a team placing a franchise tag on a player mean? We can get this is a way to make it short, but it means they have rights to retain the player. Teams have one franchise tag they can use per season. The amount that they have to pay the player depends on if they use a exclusive or non-exclusive tag. So if it's a non-exclusive, the player can go negotiate with other teams. You don't see it very often. And it depends on the position they play. Like if you recall a decade ago, maybe you don't, Mr. From, the Broncos placed a tag on Prater, I believe. And it was like, oh, well, duh. They don't have any like free agents that are worth like keeping here. And it's only like $4 million. So it's just extending the window. A lot of times teams also use the tag to extend the negotiation window. I think the Broncos with Von Miller worked out that way as well.
Justin
Simmons, yep. Another one. So it depends on what kind of tag they play, but like a team like the Falcons right now with Kyle Pitts, because he plays tight end, the tag is not going to be very expensive. So it makes sense for them to tag him unless there's like locker room issues, which I don't know about, but like he's talented enough. He's still only like 24 years old. And tight ends don't cost a lot to tag. So like if Pitts hit the open market, I bet you he gets a contract larger than what the tag is because of the demand for teams wanting weapons that look like that.
Yeah, and there's a few different types of tags. Obviously, there's exclusive, non-exclusive. There's a transition tag, and the amount of it is based, depending on what tag, based on current contracts. And it's something that players use too. If the players get tagged, they often look at the cost of 2 years of tags, and they typically ask for more money than that in their first 2 years. But another way of looking at it is a right of first refusal. So depending on the tag, one of the tags, they can't even negotiate with other teams. Another one of the tags they can. And then the original team, say Denver placed a franchise tag on John Franklin Myers. That was a transition. It is a non-exclusive franchise tag, I think would be the better way to put it. He can then negotiate with other teams, and if they sign to a deal, then Denver can choose to either match that deal or let him walk. And if they let him walk, they can get some draft picks for it.
Yeah. I'm with you. As we wrap it up here, I've got a comment from Jose come in and says, get Bo Nix some more wide receivers, please. Make Marvin Mims another bigger part of the offense. This is another kind of part of the Broncos fans and Broncos wanting wide receiver as well, but the team is set up for ascension from the wide receiver position because outside of Cortland Sutton, they are exceedingly young. So let's say the Broncos come away this offseason and for some reason there's not a wide receiver trade market that materializes. And you bring in, let's say, Dallas Goedert, Y tight end, older, 2-year contract, but like actually can play Y and catch the ball between the sticks and in the red zone. I mean, he was awesome in the red zone this season. When Jalen Hurts actually decides to throw it over the middle, he's pretty tough. And then you sign, let's go Breece Hall. Eric just added some explosiveness there as well. Adding those two guys, and then your wide receivers being Sutton, Pat Bryant, who I think we're all excited about, and Marvin Mims, like that isn't the worst thing in the world for this team. Now, will it be disappointing if they don't walk away with like a Waddle or trade up for, let's just go Mekhi Lemon? I don't even know if that's Sean Payton's type per se, but like he beat the absolute tar out of Iowa and made unbelievable plays. So he sticks out in my head. That'd be awesome. But like, I think walking away from the end of the season with how Marvin Mims showed up in big time and how Pat Bryant, I think, is ascending, gives me some hope for the pieces you already have here at wide receiver. It doesn't mean they're not going to go hard for a wide receiver one, but I just want to be at least voice in here early on that if they like, for some reason, it doesn't materialize where they get this obvious wide receiver one, I'm not going to be sitting here screaming and crying about it because I do actually have some faith in the overall assembly of the weapons, assuming they upgrade Y tight end and running back at the same time.
Yeah, I think Y tight end and running back is more important to add because you just don't have guys there right now, and you do have that ascending. But again, they're still going to make that run at another wide receiver. Somebody can, rely on. Somebody can possibly even help dictate coverages a little bit, which is why, again, I think Jalen Waddle, just because of that speed that he has, can help dictate a little bit with the coverages. And they're going to be aggressive with it. But if they don't, I'm with you. I think that they have a lot to look forward with this wide receiver room. It's just hard to go into yet another season just betting on so much improvement from the wide receiver room to help pick up the slack that's there, because it really is looking like that Cortland Sutton over the last few weeks has kind of taken a dive down. Is he going to be able to bounce back? He is a little bit on that older side of it. And, with the injury that he had, that kind of took off some time for his career. So there's a lot of questions for it. I think they'll be aggressive with it. But there's a comment here that I want to grab real quick. Prince fan coming in saying, yo, what's that hat on Eric's head? My last name is Dove. Go Hawks. Well, you can go to mhhmerch.com and get this hat.
There you go. Dove Valley Deep Divers out there. Yeah, so we'll see what happens this offseason. Broncos got some holes. One thing I will say, I think it's a little bit of a misconception out there, Eric, that the Broncos get the Russell Wilson money off the books and hooray, right? That's something that is nice to have off the books, but the Broncos have already kind of set up contracts to live with Russell Wilson off the books because they deferred like 33% more money than any other team in football. So like how they've been signing these contracts has already taken advantage of the Russell Wilson cap relief that's coming down the tracks, if that makes sense. So like people looking for, oh, now we got all this money. Well, with how you sign the contracts, you already built that in. So you were paying less now, deferring some money with voids or just the structure of the contract in general. And you built in to take advantage of the relief that's here. So it's not all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of money to spend for the Broncos with how they've distributed contracts. It's not like they're poor by any means in the cap, especially not in cash, of course, as well. Like if there's somebody out there they want, they can go get them within reason. But
And
they deferred more money than anybody else. So like this Russell Wilson money coming off the books isn't actually going to like change the dynamics drastically.
yeah, and they're still sitting with about 30 million in salary cap space, and they have multiple contracts that they can restructure to create more. They have plenty of avenues for it. And then again, rich owners, one of the easiest ways to work the cap and maximize the cap is having cash on hand and giving it out in bonuses, because the whole thing of the contract goes into escrow and that whole contract there. So it's when you have that money and you're not relying on money from the NFL like a lot of other teams do, like Denver was there after when the trust was in charge. You can sit there and you can work around it a little bit more. And that's the way that the Broncos are working it with the salary cap. It wasn't because of Russell Wilson's contract, from what I understand, that played a part in it, but it was more so because they're a team now. It's a Sean Payton thing. We're going to kick the can down the road. Eventually it's all going to come due, but we're going to kick the can down the road until we can't anymore. And so that I would expect them to keep doing that. And so I would expect probably like 3, maybe 4 restructures. And Denver goes into this with 30 million in effective cap space, meaning that is taking out what they have to set aside for the draft picks, which will be about 5 million, and taking out what they'll want to save for later additions, which is probably about another 5 to 10 million. So I think Denver will go into this with about 40 to 45, and effective cap space is about 30.
They have avenues for sure to create some money, and it's going to be a destination I think a lot of people will like to come to. So we'll see what happens with this team. We'll see what happens with the coaching search. Didn't have much time to talk about it. I think Webb has 1 or 2 interviews today, and he's a hot commodity. We'll see what happens with Vance Joseph as well. I know that some people covering the Cardinals have been saying that somebody, not Vance Joseph, but somebody else is the favorite. And I know that you've heard differently as well. So we'll see what happens with Vance Joseph and the Cardinals/Raiders as well. And Jim Leonard too. 2 of the positions he was talking with were
3
of the positions, because Packers, Giants, and Cowboys. So
Yep.
He might be back regardless. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens there. But overall, great season. Unfortunately, it comes down this way, but I think AFC is going to get absolutely clobbered in the Super Bowl coming up here. I mean, we saw Drake May and the Patriots offense has been abysmal, freaking abysmal, but they've gone against some really just unfortunate offenses. But they got there, so credit to them, and you still want that chance, even if you get whipped you play the game still. So I'm guessing Seahawks. What do you think the spread will be? Do we have an early line? I would go Seahawks 7.5, 6.5. That might be high, but I just think they're gonna freaking overwhelm the absolute hell out of that Patriots offensive line.
Yeah, I said this. There's a guy I know he's a Patriots fan. I reached out to, and I was saying like congrats and last night, and somebody came in and it's like, well, they're gonna get throttled in the thing in the Super Bowl anyways. I'm like, yeah, I kind of felt that no matter who was representing the AFC, as much as that would, I hate to say it, those NFC teams, man, both of them just looked so good, especially Seattle with the way they play defense. I don't know if there's an early line, but I'm pulling for Seattle to win, partially because of that is I like to sleep in my own bed, and my wife is a Seahawks fan. And the wall is not very thick between me and our bedroom, my office and our bedroom, so she can probably hear me right now if she's awake. So go Seattle. And Prince Van saying, coming in with a $10 super chat saying, thanks, you're welcome. And I saw you said go Hawks. Well, we're pulling for the Seahawks. The last thing we want is a Patriots Super Bowl win. Another one.
Yeah.
They don't deserve good things.
Yeah, I don't know, Eric. They had a really hard time those 3 seasons where they didn't have a MVP
Oh
caliber.
yeah, they had a hard time with allowing two people that are getting, charged with domestic violence, playing for them, feels so bad for them.
Yeah, God, seeing Steven Diggs cry on the sideline, it took everything in my power not to tweet out something just toxic. But I don't wish good things for him. Let's just put it that way. But yeah, we're gonna get out of here. Appreciate everyone. Good season. Shout out to everybody coming in here. Super chats. Denver Luke, James Todd, Miguel Santa Steven. Great to see you. Lawrence Rivera, of course. Prince fan coming in here. Yeah, definitely pulling for the Seahawks. I was in Seattle for 5 years, and it is by far my favorite city and region of the country. The Pacific Northwest, specifically Western Washington. Portland, Western Oregon's cool too. They got a cooler coastline up there, but the mountains in Washington have my heart. So I'll get back to you guys this summer about the Rocky Mountains. Haven't done enough out here yet, but it's going to be hard to topple the Cascades. Make sure you guys are following Eric and I. Eric's at Eric Trickle. I'm at Nick Kendall MHH. Also follow our guy Dylan Von Arks in the background. Shout out to him, keeping us in line, taking care of some of the trolls with the trigger finger. Follow Dylan at Dylan Von Arks MHH. We're at Mile High Huddle, of course, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And as the ticker says underneath, please subscribe, like, and share over on YouTube. It's an unfortunate end to the season, Eric, but a successful season, no doubt. And it's frustrating because you never know if you'll be at this point again. Obviously, you got some dragons in your division at quarterback, even though Justin Herbert turns into a chicken from the dinosaur to, a sparrow in the playoffs, it seems like. But and we'll see about Mahomes' injury next season. But it's definitely hurts to lose that opportunity, the number 1 seed in the pathway they had. But still, where we were 3 years ago to now, things to correct, things to get better on. But what an enjoyable season for the Broncos. So really fun. Thank you for waking up early, talking about all this with me, not disparaging my stupidity that tends to show its head, 3 or 4 times an episode as well. So always do appreciate that.
Yeah, and I mean, I wrote an article on this. You can check it out, milehill.com, about the season ending. But Broncos fans and even the team, like I saw Mike McGlinchey talked about it as like, yeah, we're disappointed. We had Super Bowl aspirations. Like they still should have their heads up high because of what they did. This is a team that 2 years ago, prior to the 2024 season, everybody thought was going to have a top 5 pick. Even after they made the playoffs last year, so many NFL analysts had Denver as, bottom 10, 15 team in the NFL this year, missing the playoffs, maybe 8-9 wins, just not quite there. And they went 14-3, and they did so with some amazing comebacks. It was a very magical season that we had, and maybe we'll never see something like this again. Not necessarily, not another 14-3 record. Who knows with that? But the way they got there, and it's a bummer. It's a bummer to go out the way you did on a, losing your starting quarterback on a play that shouldn't have happened because the refs missed an obvious holding call in the end zone. But hey, it still stinks. It's hard, but Denver still has a lot to be proud of. Broncos fans, it was a great season. It was a magical season. I'm glad that we were able to share this ride with you all. The first time that we've been doing these shows that we've had a season like this. Obviously, we made the playoffs last year, but this was a little bit different. And you mentioned that maybe they don't get there again because, the division is full of dragons. Well, in a world full of dragons, be dragon slayers. And I think the Broncos kind of slightly established themselves as dragon slayers this year.
Yeah. Nerd. No, I'm just kidding. I appreciate everyone. We got to get out of here. Have a great Monday. Can continue to, go out there and cheer the team on, and we'll be back on Friday. Good season, everyone. Go Broncos.